right, welcome everybody to the Work Hard, Play Hard podcast. I am your host, Ryan Harding, and today we got Masyn Barney here with us.
How's it going?
Good. I'm glad you're here. So
yeah, thanks for having me on.
We're on a new set location here, trying something out a little bit differently today, and it's looking good here. So Masyn is a realtor, investor. Been doing it for a little while now, and enjoys it. Pretty successful. He's a Lehigh native living in Spanish Fork, and we're going to kind of get to know him a little bit better here today. So, in fact, I'll just kind of go there. Tell me about yourself. Give me a little background of who you are and what's going on and stuff like that.
So I'm an agent with Equity Real Estate.
Okay.
Got a wife and a daughter.
Okay.
Live out in Spanish Fork. My wife and I both went to BYU. We were looking to buy a house right out of school, and we just moved out there because it was cheap. And then I've slowly got ourselves more and more into real estate. But yeah, I'm a big Jazz fan, big BYU sports fan, and just love hanging out with my family. So
good. Yeah, they're in the Big 12 now.
They are.
Football season.
Yeah, it's going to get more fun.
Should be more fun. Yep, no, definitely. That's actually where I met my wife. Did you say you met your wife there, or?
Yep, we lived in the same apartment complex.
What apartment complex?
Campus Plaza.
Okay.
So just south of campus.
Yeah.
Basically on campus.
Yeah.
Everyone lives on top of each other, and
I'm familiar with camp. I was in Roman Gardens, so.
Okay, I'm not familiar with that one.
That was down. You know where the Gold's Gym is, or you know that.
The Vasa.
That area, Vasa now. Yeah. So that area. Back there, Centennial Apartments and.
Right on.
King Henry and stuff like that. Anyhow, side note, I'm getting distracted, but you're taking me back to my BYU
College
days.
days.
So but okay, so tell me why does real estate appeal to you? What is it that you like about it? I mean, why'd you get into, obviously smart guy going to BYU, a lot of different options here. Why real estate?
Yeah, so it's kind of interesting. My wife is a therapist, so mental health therapist. We were talking, we still had a year or two left of school, and she was telling me how she wanted to eventually open her own practice. And we got talking about all sorts of different things. I'm a business guy, so I was kind of getting excited about running it from a business standpoint.
Sure.
We were thinking about, how many doctors and dentists, when they go to retire, they try to sell their practice, and the most valuable thing they have isn't their practice, it's the building they were in.
Sure.
So we had thought about that, heard it a lot. So we started looking into that. How can we go and buy a building for her practice, and then maybe rent out other units in the building to help pay for it? Started doing some research and found house hacking. Found Bigger Pockets, big investor site, podcast, and one thing led to another, and I got really into real estate investing. Probably researched for about 2 or 3 years, went to different meetups with other investors, agents, kind of got going down the road of real estate.
Nice. And you've enjoyed it?
Absolutely enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I live and breathe real estate now, whether that's my personal life, looking for investments myself, helping clients, just kind of looking, I dabble in all sorts of different areas of real estate, but it's really what excites me now. So.
Gotcha. And what have you found successful in real estate as far as, I guess what do you think is making you successful? What's that drive there?
Yeah, I think it's actually fairly easy to be successful in real estate investing, right?
Okay.
You just have to buy something that you can hold on to.
Okay.
If you're not at risk of losing it, you're going to do well. So that's why I love real estate. It's such a stable investment. And really, I think just understanding the power of leverage has helped me be successful in my investing, right? So many people want to invest in stocks or in crypto or whatever, but the power of leverage in real estate is unmatched. So, all you have to do is buy one property, and soon in 1 year, you can leverage that property to build it quicker.
So elaborate on that a little bit, because I think you're right on. But explain, if you were to explain, what do you mean by the leverage part then?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So elaborate on that a little bit more.
So if you were to go and buy $10,000 worth of stocks, in order for that to double your money, taking the average S&P 500 returns, it's going to take you about 7 years.
Okay.
And most people do not beat the S&P 500.
Yeah.
So expect to double your money in 7 years. That's a pretty good investment.
Yeah.
But when you go and put $10,000 and buy a $300,000 home, your $10,000 is your down payment. Bank lends you the rest. For the average appreciation that you see in the nation, you're going to double your money in 1 year.
Gotcha.
Because you're making a return on the full amount of the house rather than just the amount you put into it. Whereas every other investment that I've seen, you're only making money on the money you put in.
So even though the $300,000 house itself is not doubling, what you're saying is, if that appreciation's say 3%, 3% of 300,000, that's $9,000. You invested 10 to your point, right? Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, I think you're right on. That is actually one of my favorite things about real estate itself. I mean, because it amplifies what you're doing.
Yep. You're using other people's money to make more money.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. And ideally, if it's rented out, somebody else is even paying for those other people's money.
Right. There's many other income streams beyond just the appreciation. So you can have rental income, loan pay down. Yeah. You're hedging against inflation. Yeah. So tax write-offs, but not looking at any of that. You're still beating the stock market purely on average appreciation.
Yeah. Yeah. And you talked about, from a tax perspective, why do you like, real estate too? I mean,
Yeah. More than anything, real estate and business, right? Because when you're looking at a business compared to your personal income is taxed before any expenses. It's just your gross income is taxed. Whereas in a business, you take off everything you're spending and then you're taxed on the end amount, right? Yep. You're taxed on the net. So that's a huge advantage just being a business. But then in real estate, right, you can write off your loan interest. You can, if you want to get really complex, you can start doing bonus depreciation and cost segregation studies. So there's lots of ways to get, to have huge tax advantages, but very simple ones, right out the gate for the average homeowner are awesome.
Yeah. So. Yeah. I mean, so for the average person, what's depreciation? What is that? So what does that mean?
Right. So the government essentially says your house has a life of 27 and a half years, right?
Yeah.
So every year you get to take whatever that, the total value of your home divided by that 27 and a half, you get to take that off of your taxes, right? You don't owe taxes on that much of your income that you had.
Gotcha.
So
you're able to write off something that's not an actual expense.
Yep.
Even though we all know real estate actually appreciates.
And lasts longer than 27 and a half years.
Correct. Okay. Awesome.
Usually.
Yeah. No, great. Hey, you explained it perfectly.
Yep.
Those are some good points there, because I think a lot of people don't totally understand, hey, sure, why real estate's good. They know it's good, but define it. And I think you've done a great job there. So, as far as, how are you continuing to, so the market itself has changed, right? Things have changed in the market and stuff like that. How would you say that, you're continuing to educate yourself in this market where things are, because obviously a year ago, multiple offers, 10 offers on the home, you're trying to do different things. Things have totally shifted now. How are you educating yourself to still be of value to a client?
Yeah. So I'm a big data guy. Okay. So I graduated in supply chain from BYU, started out as a demand planner. So I was constantly using statistical forecasts to predict what was going to happen in the future. So I absolutely love data. And as a realtor, we have access to some awesome data. Okay. So one thing that I do for my clients and for anyone that's interested, I put out a market report. When you hear market report from another agent, it's usually number of homes sold, average price, and that's about it. It's like a one page, this is the market report for this city. Yes. I had to put together a whole presentation. I just go through the data every month because I like doing it. And I look for things that are standing out, right? What's the list price to sale price ratio? So that kind of helps guide where my clients should be putting offers in, right? If homes are selling for 93% of their list price, then I know that that's a good basis for what we should be offering. Yeah. Whereas if you're not looking at that, you may have no clue what to offer besides, I like that house, let's offer list price, or let's offer $5,000 less because we want to get a deal, right?
Kind of shooting in the dark a little bit.
Right. And I think a lot of consumers, they hear what's going on in the market, but they don't know what that means from a numbers perspective.
Sure.
So they don't know if there's been 3% depreciation over the last month or 6% appreciation over the last 6 months, right? They don't know those exact numbers, and so I'm able to see all that data, put together some simple regression lines and put that out in a consumable format, so people can kind of keep their pulse on the market, a whole lot better than they can just reading articles online. So that's what I love doing. I just love compiling it for myself, and then I share that with my clients, and people have really, really liked that, and they kind of get mad at me if I don't put it out 1 month. So
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense. I like that. Data is, we live in the information age, and people, it's not that important, but there's reasons why large companies are spending lots of money to understand people, right? And understand trends and different things like that. And so, on that mark, then tell me some of your forecasts for the market. Where do you think the market's, at right now? Let's start with that, and then I'll go futuristic, I guess. But is it a good time to buy right now?
Yeah, it's always a good time to buy.
Okay. And why is that?
Why it's a good time to buy changes.
Okay.
So I kind of look at everything, and a home buyer is they're going to care about two things, but really only one thing: their monthly mortgage payment.
Okay.
They also care about home price, but only in as much as it affects their monthly payment.
Okay.
And if they're looking at two homes, one's 400,000, one's 450, they like them the exact same amount, they're probably going to go with the cheaper house.
Sure.
But primarily because that makes their monthly payment lower. So what you really need to look at is what impacts that monthly payment. And it's mostly purchase price and interest rate. And usually they kind of move in opposite directions. When interest rates go up, home prices come down. And it's hard to find that perfect balance. They're always kind of shifting, especially lately. Every day is different. But it kind of depends what's most important, right? So right now, interest rates are fairly high, but home prices are low. And the consequence, like what has happened because of that, is mortgage payments are a lot higher than they have been in the last few years. So it's harder to buy for a lot of people. But the advantage is if you buy now, you can lock in that price and hopefully refinance later. But even if you can't refinance later because interest rates haven't gone down, that means that you're probably locking in the best rate that we're going to see for a long time. Means mortgage payments are probably going to go up. Home prices are going to go up. Rents are probably going to come up. So it's kind of, it's really hard to lose. Interest rates go down, you can refinance. They go up, you got the best rate you're going to see in a long time.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Smart. Yeah. So, and it's always scary to predict the future. But tell me, where do you think, the Utah market? Obviously, we just read, I think just yesterday, about Lehigh getting, Texas Instruments going to put, $11 billion, 800 new jobs, $100,000, job annual salary. Big deal, right? Kind of thing. So obviously Utah is still a hot job market. I think, as far as companies see the value of Utah and stuff like that, which I think that says something, I guess. But tell me your thoughts as far as how is Utah going to do as far as housing prices? Because you also have the flip side of that is, well, hey, where are some of these people going to live that can't quite afford, that aren't making over $100,000 a year, right?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting, and home prices are almost, mortgage payments and home prices are following interest rates like to the dime right now. In the past, mortgage rates don't change a ton, and so you see appreciation despite interest rates staying fairly steady. But lately, they've been all over the place. So what I always tell people is, if interest rates come up, home prices may come down more. If they come down, home prices will probably come up. So what we've seen early in January is mortgage rates coming down quite a bit. And that has kind of turned the market from the last 4 or 5 months where home prices had been coming down. There had been almost no competition. I had several buyers putting in offers and being the only offer on a house. So they kind of had their picking of what they wanted. Now, the last 2 buyers that I've been working with, they've been, submitting offers, and they've had homes being, going under contract in 7 days. Okay. Whereas in the last 4 or 5 months, that's been like 40 to 50 days on average. Okay. So it's sped up really fast, and it's because those mortgage rates have come down, and there's so much pent up demand because over the last 4 or 5 months, no one's been buying, no one's been selling. The market came to a halt, and after that long of no activity, there's so many people, like the number of people wanting to buy doesn't just disappear. that's always increasing. And so when no one's acting on that, it's only building up and building up. And so we've started to see kind of a break of that. This week, mortgage rates have come up a little bit.
Yeah.
And so what's going to happen now, it's kind of up in the air. But
Sure.
I just say, it's going to follow where interest rates go. So that's kind of going to be the predictor.
Okay. Interest rates have a huge impact here.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Which, depends on the Fed and depends on inflation.
Inflation and job report. And
Exactly. Yep.
yeah, I think it's interesting. A lot of people think whatever the Fed does, that's where mortgage rates are, and that's not true.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Elaborate on that. Actually, I know that,
Yeah.
but a lot of people don't. So
Yeah.
get a good clip here for us.
Yeah. So last month, right, the Fed increased their the Fed rate, federal funds rate, a quarter of a basis point.
Correct.
And mortgage interest rates came down.
Mm-hmm.
So they worked opposite of each other.
Yeah.
And a lot of it is because, the mortgage interest rates kind of are trying to predict what the Fed's going to do.
Yeah.
So they're already anticipating that. And so
Yes.
when the Fed came in lower than everyone expected, they were able to lower their rates.
Yeah.
So they expected it to come up by, 50%, right? Rather than 25% or whatever, 0.25%, I guess. And so they don't, just because you hear the Fed funds rate increases, that doesn't mean mortgage rates automatically increase.
Right.
In general they do, but it's not a one for one.
Okay. No, you're exactly right. Not many realtors can explain that, so good job. Good job.
Like I said, I like data.
Yeah, no, it's that background, it's that BYU background, So anyhow.
Go
but,
Cougs.
that's right. So if you were to give somebody advice that I'm going to switch back to investing here a little bit. If somebody wanted to get started in investing, what advice would you give them as far as hey, what's my first step?
Yeah. I think one of the best ways to start out as an investor is to house hack.
Okay.
So,
and define that. Right?
Yeah. So to buy a duplex or a single family home with a mother-in-law apartment or something similar, you can even house hack a townhome or whatever. But basically it just means you're living in the property that you bought and you're generating revenue from it as well to help pay for your payment, make it so you're not, covering the full cost.
Okay.
But most traditionally, that usually looks like buying a duplex, renting out one unit, living in the other. And if you're in, the Midwest, you might be able to cover your whole mortgage payment with just the rent of that other unit.
Sure.
Here in Utah, you usually can't do that. Even if you rented out both day one, you probably would have a hard time breaking even on a lot of properties, unless you're buying distressed, right? But if you're buying turnkey and everything, it's really hard to do here. But it's such a good way for someone to start investing because they learn how to be a landlord without a ton of risk, right? They live on the property. Only so much can go wrong without them knowing. A bad tenant can only trash the unit so much without you having a lot of clues. Whereas if you're investing out of state or you're investing just 30 minutes away, you may not check on the property as much. So you might have a lot more anxiety with that, right? I think it can be better long term to be further away, but starting out, you're going to have all these worries, and it's nice to be there on site all the time. So you learn how to be a landlord, you learn how to buy a house in the first place, you learn how to collect rent, and you start seeing the numbers come to life. So
love it. Okay, no, right on. Do you have any favorite stories from any cool things that have stood out as far as doing real estate? Met this person, did this. It's kind of put you on the spot there, but
Yeah. One that I like to tell people is actually a story about me when we were looking to buy.
Okay.
I wasn't an agent yet. I had done a lot of research in real estate, but now looking back, I knew nothing.
Sure, fair enough. Yeah, you thought you did maybe, but
I thought I knew everything.
Okay.
But we were looking to buy a house, right?
Yep.
I barely had graduated from BYU, or wasn't even graduated yet when we started looking. Okay. My wife was, I believe, just starting her master's or was going to be starting soon.
Okay.
We had $11,000, and this was in 2021.
Okay.
So the market was crazy. People were offering $10,000 above appraisal. They were offering a $10,000 appraisal gap. Okay. We had $11,000 total to use. And at first we were like, yes, we can buy a house. Like, there's no issue, right?
Sure.
And our realtor, he was awesome. You know, besides myself, he's probably the realtor I'd recommend more than anyone else.
Okay.
He is fantastic. I've learned a ton from him. But he was so patient with us, you know, showing us all these homes that he probably knew, looking back, that we had no shot.
Yeah, gotcha. But yet he still let you see him. Good job. Good job.
He, you know, he worked really well with us, and we put in offers on a lot of homes, and we were getting outbid on these 700 square foot homes. Like, it was insane, right? But we finally found a house, and we were able to buy a house with $11,000 in that market.
Wow.
And so when I love that story, because people think, you know, how can I buy a house? I don't have any money. Usually you can scrap together $10,000, you know, even if it takes you some time to save that, right? And now $10,000 may not be quite enough, but there's always ways to work around your situation, you know. Don't self-select out is what I kind of tell people. At very least, talk with a realtor, talk with a lender, and maybe it is a year out that you can buy, but at least you know the steps to get there, right? And so that was, you know, that's what we did well. We talked with a realtor, we started throwing in offers, and we got in the game and tried figuring it out, right? And like I said, you can only lose if you buy a property that you can't hold on to. Okay. So just talk with someone, start that process, and figure out what those next steps are, and get going.
Awesome.
So.
And how does somebody get a hold of you if they want to start that process with you?
Yeah. More than anything, I like when people text me.
Okay.
So 801-709-1122.
Okay.
You can also reach out on Instagram. I'm a little more active on Instagram than the other platforms, but Masyn.Barney_realtor.
Okay.
My name's Utah County Realtor on there. So.
Nice. Awesome.
But LinkedIn, Facebook, you can find me anywhere. But yeah, text me or Instagram's usually best.
Okay. Awesome. Masyn, you're a smart guy. I like it. I like the data. I'm, you know, we should compare Excel spreadsheets sometime. And, you know, see, you know, some of the, you know, that's kind of my, I love data too. So actually,
there you go.
Man of my own heart, I guess, in that sense. But no, hey, thanks for coming on. Appreciate you. I think a lot of good advice here, and hopefully people are listening. You know, the benefit, you know, plug for data, I guess. The reason I like data and the guy that understands data is because it's not just guessing then. It's not just like, hey, no, it's a good time to buy because, you know, I'm a realtor and I get a commission, right? Yep. You know, it's, well, okay, here's the data. Here's what it's saying. Here's this. You know, you have a little bit of a leg to stand on as far as kind of explaining things and stuff. So, excuse me. Great job. Appreciate you. And thank you, everybody else, for listening to Work Hard, Play Hard podcast. Like and subscribe. Write us a review. We obviously need those kind of things. But appreciate you, and hopefully you find value here in this podcast. So we'll see you next week.
Awesome. Thanks.